YouTube Oziko and the Goat House is back. The morning after day one of the NFL draft, and I'm here to grade every single round one pick in this video. We have a recent video that went up last night. Winners, losers, best value picks, fit picks, questionable picks, things like that. Check it out. And we'll have more videos like that throughout the NFL draft here. We'll have a day two mock later today, so a lot of exciting stuff. Analysis on every single pick for day 2 and 3 on our Twitter. I'll be on Twitter with you guys. A lot of news, rumors, updates on there, so make sure you follow that. Link pinned in the comments. Make sure you like, subscribe to notifications on. We got that full NFL draft content here throughout the entire thing and after. Links pinned in the comments for anything you're looking for. We got sponsors, GLD Shop, some sick jewelry, including NFL jewelry, Liquid IV. We have that code. Everyone loves some Liquid IV. Links pinned in the comments. Here we go. First overall pick was the Panthers. I gave it a B+. CJ Stroud was my number 1 overall quarterback, but I did have an elite grade on Bryce Young. The only knock on him was the size, but more so long-term durability, but a phenomenal player, phenomenal athlete, and he'll be solid as long as he's healthy in Frank Reich's offense with the talent there. I gave it a B+. So overall, it's solid. I was more of a CJ Stroud guy, but maybe there was some worry about the S2 test. Yeah, the Panthers still get a lot better. They get their guy. They get a talented guy. I'm giving that a B+. Second pick was my number 1 overall player in the draft. And yeah, I mean, this is a tough one because I usually give A+ to like, wow, how did they get him? And maybe we're doing that because we thought the Texans were going to pass on him. But you know, they needed a quarterback so badly. They get my number 1 player in the draft. You know, accuracy is king. People forget about it. I mean, look at prospects every single year. The past several years, of course, there was better quarterback prospects than C.J. Stroud. You know, Trevor Lawrence, a recent one that comes to mind. But Stroud's accuracy is top tier compared to all those top guys. And some comparisons to, you know, is he going to be as good as Joe Burrow? Probably not. But, you know, some similarities. I like a more accurate Dak Prescott. And Dak might be a little more mobile, but C.J. Stroud was getting better and better with his mobility as well. The game against Georgia was just ridiculous, made for the moment. I'm happy for the Texans. Like, you know, I almost put myself, all these picks, I almost put myself like being a fan of each team. And they got to be pumped over there. They should be. So I gave this one an A+, get my top player in the draft, and they get a lot better with that. Third pick, also the Texans, Will Anderson, who's my second. So they got my first and my second overall player. So in that recent video, winners and losers, I think they have to be on that W side and very high up on it. So if you didn't see that, check it out. But so they got my number 1 and number 2 player. They did have to trade up to get this, and it's the value of the pick. That's how I grade. So what player they took, where is he on my board, how's the fit, was it a steal or not, and then did they have to trade anything away or did they gain anything in the trade? So they did trade away a pretty good haul to the Cardinals. Cardinals did pretty well with that. You know, so I couldn't quite give this an A+, even though Will Anderson and D'Amico Ryan's defense might give you A+ vibes, but because they did give up quite a bit of value, I couldn't give it an A+. You know, they did give up a lot, so I thought about A- as well, but Will Anderson's such a good player. They get a lot better. D'Amico Ryan's defense, could he be like a Nick Bosa? It's hard to say he will be as good as Nick Bosa, but I mean, he's that special of a talent where we can actually mention it at least. So Texans did a hell of a job there. The fourth pick, yeah, this one, you know, this is a tough one because it's a boomer bust prospect. Maybe I could be being a little generous here because Richardson was my 15th overall player in the draft, which 15 out of all the players in the draft, I think he's pretty solid. You know, a lot of upside. It's risky. So they take my 15th overall player at 4, but he is a quarterback. I am glad that they took him over Levis. Very, very happy about that. Richardson was my quarterback 3. Levis was my quarterback 5. So happy with that. I do love the fit in Shane Steichen. That's a big part of this too. You know, Steichen's offense. He's been good with quarterbacks. Herbert, Jalen Hurts, more importantly. You know, last couple years. Richardson with his legs, being able to fit that offense. But he's got a ton of upside. And to me, you know, the accuracy issues are a concern, and that's why this could be he could have bust written all. I mean, he does have bust written all over him, but he has boom written all over him at the same time. So I think you got to fix the footwork. And the good thing is, footwork really isn't an issue while dropping back or maneuvering in the pocket and around pressure. That's actually not an issue. It's when he's throwing, which might sound like the biggest issue, but planting his feet, not throwing from his toes. That's a big thing. We think that caused some accuracy issues, hopefully. So, because I think that is very fixable with him, the way he throws, how he's on his toes. We'll fix that, get the heels in the dirt, and then that should fix some accuracy issues. But he could just be a little wild. Maybe got to take a little bit of velocity off the ball as well. But he does make those splash plays down the field. He wants to be a pass first guy. That's what I love about Anthony Richardson, because you cannot win the Super Bowl being a run first guy or being a better runner than a passer. That's just a fact to me in today's NFL. Right now, he's a better runner than he is passer, but he wants to be a pass first guy. He has potential to do that. I've seen some special things from the pocket. Florida's offense was weird. Didn't really like the play calling, or not even the play calling, kind of just the plays in general, like where they had receivers running routes, maybe because it was the receivers were bad. But it's a boomer bust guy. Like, he's either going to be really good or really bad. It's pretty, because they're going to fix. I think they're going to fix the mechanics, like I said, lower body mechanics. And then it's just going to be there on out, if he's consistent with it and if it helps the accuracy, and if he stays as wanting to be a pass first guy and a pass first guy, because that is what could make him special. So I'm glad they went him over Levis. So a boomer bust guy here. So I'm going to give him a B+. Was thinking about a B, gave him a B+. I think Colts fans may be happy they took him over. I know some of you on Twitter were starting to talk yourselves into Levis because you thought it was going to happen, but I think most of the fan base would prefer, I would guess, Richardson over Levis. But, let me know in the comments. Number 5 pick, Devon Witherspoon. It was a little bit of a surprise. I gave it a B. I do like Witherspoon, my number 8 overall player in the draft. He's fun to watch. He had one really good year, so I guess that's a little bit of a risk with him, but it was a really, really good year. A little bit of a surprising one here. And then you wonder, because he's really good in man coverage, good in zone as well, but really good in man coverage. Seahawks, mainly a cover 2 team, which the man guys in the NFL are usually pretty good in cover 2, but do they want to add more man coverage? So there's some questions. They're not negative questions, but there's some questions there. They did create maybe a future elite cornerback duo, but for right now, it's pretty good. Young, obviously. Yeah, a little surprising, but I gave it a B. You got a good player here. I did have Gonzalez as my number 1 corner, but overall, yeah, it was just kind of B+ range. B+. I know the Seahawks fans didn't seem super thrilled about it, but yeah, overall, they got a big time playmaker and a guy that likes to fly around the football field and hit. Sometimes he'll whiff a little bit because maybe the motor's a little too high, but I gave that one a B, and it's really close to being like a B+ as well, B+ range. Next, Paris Johnson Jr. Yeah, this probably would have been a B, because they pass on some top tier talent, whether it was at 3 or even here. There's better guys on my board, even though Paris Johnson Jr. is up there on my board, and I do think he is the number 1 guy for this specific new system for the Cardinals. The blocking scheme will be more outside zone, so he is the best fit for that. And it isn't like the sexiest pick in the world. There isn't tremendous value, but I do bump it up to a B+ because I think they did a great job in terms of value with the trades. They get an absolute haul from the Texans, and they trade up. They still have picks left over. They have that early second-round pick on top of it, on top of a next-year first, too, and other things. But they have that early second-round pick from the Texans, so they'll be picking very early today while there's some really good players on the board still, so that helped them out a ton. So I definitely you factor in mostly the player, but I do factor in that a bit there, like I always do, because it's about the value of the pick, really. We're not just grading the player. So I gave that one a B+. They had an opportunity to get a tackle of the future. Him and DJ Humphries should be pretty solid. Yeah, this is actually probably closer to being an A- the more I'm talking about than a B. So B+ felt good, high-end B+ here. But yeah, you do pass on Will Anderson. I know the fans wanted him, or I even heard some maybe wanted if you move back, you got like Christian Gonzalez, who surprisingly dropped a little bit. But they get a tackle here, and so they don't really have to worry about They got to worry about the interior, but they don't have to worry about that spot too much, and they'll be picking early today. Next, pick 7, Tyree Wilson goes to the Raiders at pick 7 here. I gave this one a B. Tyree Wilson, if you listen to me all pre-draft process, like he's an interesting prospect. Because strictly as an edge guy, I wasn't super thrilled with him compared to where the hype was, mainly because the lack of get off, which is very, very important. He does not explode off the ball. I know Texas Tech had him sitting and reading a bit, but a lot of times he was the last, very offensive line, defensive line, last person off the ball. And explosive get off is something that doesn't really change a whole lot at all, if at all, going to the NFL. And Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa, TJ Watt, Micah Parsons, these guys fly off the ball. They jump the snap, the reactions, the explosiveness. I mean, it starts with that. It starts with that. And then every year, I've been kind of ranking the top guys, pass rushers, starting with that. There's more to it. Those guys end up being pretty good. So I don't love that, but I do love the power and the length, how he's able to win with the length, how he's able to stand up, put his hand in the dirt. Yeah, you don't have to work with him with the run defense, but he could actually be a boom player. Like, this could end up being an A+ if you move him around a bit. This guy is a mismatch on the inside because he has the run stopping ability. He has the power to play on the inside, but he has that length to create that mismatch. So if you move him around a bit, this is an A+ pick. I like Patrick Graham. I voiced my opinion on that. I like Patrick Graham a lot as a defensive coach. It didn't look that great last year. That's because the Raiders on paper were pretty damn bad on defense, except for Max Crosby and a couple other players. So I'm going to trust Patrick Graham here to use him quite a bit. They could use him, Crosby and Chandler Jones at the same time. I know they move the alignment slightly with Max Crosby a little bit as well. So it could be fun. It's kind of like a wait and see, because to me, if Wilson is playing 90% plus of his snaps off the edge, this is going to be worse than a B at the end of the day. If he's playing a pretty good split, I would love like 60-40, but we'll even say 70-30. I wouldn't really, I want it closer, but then it will be a much better than a B pick. So it is risky. He was hurt during the pre-draft process as the whole time as well. I don't know what came out of my mouth there. So I gave it a B, but I mean, every pick's a to be determined. This is kind of the ultimate to be determined, and I kind of voiced my opinion on that throughout the last couple months too. So kind of knew where that one was at. And there were certain teams where he went to where, okay, that team, I know they're only going to use him off the edge, so I'm not going to like it. That team, they're going to use him like 50-50 maybe, inside, outside. I'm going to love it there. Raiders, I love Patrick Graham. Let's see what he does. It's a little bit up in the air, but I still gave it a B because overall it's a good football player, and it should be fun if they use Crosby, Wilson, and Chandler Jones all at the same time, which I hope we see a bit of. We'll see. The 8th pick, the Falcons take, to me it was surprising, take Bijan Robinson. They finally valued running back there. I know they value running the football, but did they value the actual position? Not really, but Bijan is a different guy. I mean, he's going to be great. He's going to be a big-time playmaker, could be a Pro Bowl running back right away. I thought, running back, 8, definitely not knocking it for that, but, thought he has a pretty big range. Could have went later in the first, not super late, but, so I give it a B+ here. I thought the Falcons maybe could move down a little bit to take him. Maybe they tried, but I knew there was team, the Eagles were trying to come up. They had conversations there, were they worried about the Bears taking him? Were they worried about the Eagles taking him if they're coming up? Usually teams like, all right, we're going to come up. All right, who do you want? We'll trade you maybe if you tell us who you want. That those things happen. Perfect world. If they would have traded back a couple spots, could have been an A, but overall, they get a big-time running back, an elite prospect of a running back. A little surprised the running backs, as I say, running back went 8, but went really early. So B+, A- range there for Bijan Robinson. Number 9, I hate trading up one spot. I just always, I hate it so much, but I still give this an A+. And I do factor that in, trading up one spot. So that's tough, but I still give it an A+ because Jalen Carter, to me, is the number one talent in this class. You factor in the off-the-field issues, and he was out of shape at his pro day, and he couldn't finish his pro day, but then you see it on tape, like fourth quarter, wearing down a little bit, not as elite as he was the rest of the game. So that also, besides the off-the-field issues, but the talent is not a concern. It's overall the number one talent in the class, and you're pairing him with a guy where it was just pure havoc, with Jordan Davis, and then you got Fletcher Cox in there, and you have Milton Williams who can move around a bit. It wasn't a huge need, but I still applaud the teams that just get the best player and don't take a huge need mainly. And I think Roseman knows how to do that pretty well, obviously. So you pretty much have to give the Eagles an A+ for Mr. Jalen Carter here. I just don't like trading. I've never liked trading up one spot. I never understood it. If the Bears were willing to trade back, they wouldn't have taken Carter. I know, were they worried about the Steelers? Did the Bears kind of play them? Like, hey, the Steelers are trying to come up. The Steelers were it was pretty clear they were targeting Broderick Jones to trade up, but I guess maybe they didn't know that at the time. But I even with that, I still, even though I factor that in, I still give an A+ just because how good of a player Carter is, and him and Jordan Davis going to be really, really fun for a long time, as long as Carter stays out of trouble, I suppose. The very intriguing pick, the Bears taking Darnell Wright at 10, is a tough one to grade for me because I do like that they trade back a spot and still get him. I know there's probably fans out there that wanted them to stay put and take Carter. They didn't do that, so they might have disappointed some fans there, I'd imagine. But I do like that they gain a pick. It's a future fourth, but a fourth-round pick, you get a starter in a fourth round sometimes for moving back one spot is pretty good. So I do factor that in a little bit. Darnell Wright was my top tackle in the class. I was a huge Darnell Wright fan. I was really hoping for him to go to like a really good fit and then make me feel comfortable about being right on Darnell Wright, because it was a little bold having him as a top tackle in the class. And he didn't really go to a fit that I love here, because he barely had any outside zone snaps, and that's what the Bears are trying to run over there. So that will be interesting in the run game. He can move pretty well for a big guy, but mainly his forte is Matt Forte, his power. And but the quickness for that power is pretty damn impressive. So it is going to be a little bit of a scheme change that really only affects in the run game there. At the end of the day, he's still going to be a monster pass protector for Justin Fields, and that was pretty key. So him, Braxton Jones, they added Nate Davis at guard. And I think Wright's worst case scenario, if he ends up not looking great, maybe because the scheme, you can put him at guard and he can be a dominant guard, and it's going to be a little bit easier for him there in that scheme. So the plan is definitely a right tackle, as it should be, and I think he'll be good there. I just really wanted, and it has nothing to do with how good or bad the team is, my thoughts on that. It's just I really wanted him to go to like a really good scheme fit where I'm like, okay, I'm going to be right on that guy. He's going to plug in perfectly. He's going to be really good. And the Patriots were kind of that team that I was really liking, or the Raiders, which would have been a wild card, but this was a wild card to me. But overall, I still got to give it an A range because he's my top tackle in the class. Paris Johnson was their guy. Like he fit outside zone, so he would have been number one for the Bears on my board, and the Bears, I'm most definitely certain about that. But you still get a big time tackle here that's going to really help pass protection for Justin Fields, and it's one of those guys you can kind of put a highlight tape together for in terms of an offensive lineman, which you don't really see a whole lot. A recent guy that I've noticed that Christian Darsaw, who Minnesota got, could be a impact like that. So, Bears offensive line coming together. So maybe that really isn't an issue anymore for them. So we'll see. So that's very interesting pick, obviously. Give it an A-. Number 11, we got the Titans taking Peter Skoronsky. Yeah, I give that an A. I mean, this isn't like, probably don't hear this pick being talked about a whole lot. It's just, and he was supposed to be a lock to go in the top 10, I heard, right before the draft. He goes one spot later. I'm glad the Titans didn't reach for anybody there. There was some smoke, apparently, about Will Levis, or could they trade up in the second, maybe try to get him? That's possible. But, yeah, they needed offensive line help. You got a guy that's going to be a guard for them. He's going to start at left guard, most likely. He's going to be very good. He has Pro Bowl potential as a guard. And the Titans have been, kind of unfortunate with injuries recently. So if, Andre Dillard at left tackle, if he doesn't work out, and then you're like, all right, Skoronsky, we know the guy can play tackle, so let's slide him out, and maybe you're even better, in that sense. There was some talk about Dillard playing guard, but I think Skoronsky will play guard, Dillard will play left tackle. So that's a good pick. Offensive line is going to be right here just because of this pick, not so much because the other additions, but that on top of it. But the offensive line is going to be a lot better than it was last year. So they get a really good player who's going to be a really, really good guard for a long time here for the Tennessee Titans. So I give that one an A. I actually give this one a B. I mean, other people might grade this one way lower. The Lions taking JAHMYR GIBBS, like way lower, maybe even the fans. And the Lions fans probably, I think other content creators or analysts or mock drafters said the same thing, that the Lions fans really gave everyone the most shit this year, like with pretty straightforward picks, and they end up picking off the wall. So I feel like the Lions fan base cannot be happy. But I'm just a GIBBS guy. I like JAHMYR GIBBS. It is a little early. And my main issue is they have Montgomery, and they paid him a little bit more than over keeping Jamal Williams, their captain, their leader, and they have DeAndre Swift. We'll see what happens with him, but so they add Gibbs. If you take a running back this early, especially in today's game, in today's era, he better be getting pretty much the load, like pretty much, 12th pick. That's kind of my issue because he's probably not because the other guys they have. But Gibbs is, and they might line up at receiver sometimes, so we might see 2 running backs out there. But he's an electrifying player, running back, great pass catcher, electrifying with the ball in his hands. I just always been just a big Gibbs fan, and I use my number 16 player on the board. So in terms of board and pick, it's not. We don't got a problem really here. So it was just to me, it wasn't a bad pick. It was just super shocking, and you do wonder. About the other running backs, and you do wonder about that. So I actually, just mainly because I haven't had the chance, I haven't looked at anybody else's grades, but based on the way people were talking kind of on Twitter and the chat last night, I'd guess that people grade this not this well, maybe. That's kind of just my thinking there. So I like Gibbs, though. We'll talk about the other Lions picks, going to be a different story. But 13th pick, this one's growing on me a little bit. That's why a few of these picks coming up. This is why I like doing this video. I sleep on these picks, and I really think I like doing this video the morning after because, B- actually might look a little generous because I wasn't a huge Lucas Van Ness guy. He was actually 31 on my board, so I was good with him going in the first round still, but up at 13 is pretty tough. So that the B- based on that, because I do base a lot on, because I'm not going to base things off other people's boards. I'm going to trust my judgment like I always do on my board. How else would you do it? So that actually might look a little generous based on that, but it's growing on me a little bit because I do think it's a really good fit. We've actually talked about that in the past. I would have liked him. I'm a big Myles Murphy guy. I would have liked Myles Murphy a little bit more, but it is a fit, kind of the style guy they look for. But why it's kind of growing on me, and probably why, since 31 player, pick at 13 would have been a worse grade in this. But I think they're going to get creative with him. And he actually had a lot of his production. And that's kind of a reason I didn't really love him, because he had a lot of his production from the inside. And it's just bullying guards that just were nowhere near NFL guards, like nowhere near NFL guards. So was that going to happen with his body type and play style in the NFL? Probably not. He wasn't going to be, line up over guards and going to be able to dominate them the way he did. So he's going to have to learn to play edge a little bit more. And he did have more snaps at edge than the inside, but his better play was inside. And right now he's just a high motor guy. Needs a lot more to his game than that. And to be the pick this early, you have to be a starter too. So those are kind of the knocks on Van Ness. But I think they're going to use Rashawn Gary, Preston Smith, and Van Ness all at the same time. The Packers run a 3-4. Their ideal situation is Van Ness and Rashawn Gary for a long time off the edge, standing up, But they run a 3-4, so having Van Ness at times at 3-4 end, where maybe he's not, head to head, lined up perfectly with the guard, because I don't love that, a little bit outside that, with Preston Smith or Gary behind them and both of them on the field, that makes some sense. Also, I can talk myself even more into this here. Zadarius Smith, the way he used to line up, like everywhere, and he was super productive doing that, and he helped other guys create, or he created for other guys by doing that. I think we'll see a bit of that from Van Ness. So I think sort of just a factor by alignment, I think, here. He is raw. He has a lot of upside, but that is why it's growing. Usually, 31 overall player, boomer bust guy at pick 13, usually like a C+ might be super generous, but kind of the fit and the thinking and the different alignments, the pre-snap problems they can cause, and I think they're pretty good with defensive players. I think that defense is going to be nasty. It kind of got nasty at the end of last year, and they didn't have Gary either. So I'm kind of talking myself into it, even more and more here as I'm talking. So, but again, it does seem early. It's a risky pick. It's boomer bust. So, but maybe some things to get excited about there. 14th pick, Broderick Jones, also one that's growing on me a little bit. I wasn't thrilled about the Steelers trading up, and the fans probably weren't either. I kind of talked about the idea of that for the last several months, and they were not loving that idea. And I think a lot of them probably thought it was smoke that they were going to trade up. And if they were going to trade up, it was probably for like Paris Johnson Jr., which he was long gone. So they do move up. And they get Broderick Jones, who might be the ultimate boomer bust guy in this draft class. We talked about that because his tape really this year, believe it or not, I was surprised by it too once I got to it, was really not that great, to be honest. But I think he wasn't playing in the proper scheme, because when Georgia got him outside in space, which wasn't as often as it needed to be, he looked pretty good that way. He looked pretty good, but with a lot of the north and south blocking straight forward, he did not look that good. Because he was whiffing, he was putting his head down, he was blocking with his body, which blocking with your body is a tackle. That a first round tackle is just a no-no, big time no-no. So there's some things he's got to work on. But he does also have the least amount of snaps from a tackle in this class. So that, overall, he was pretty good for that. But in space, he is impressive. And the Steelers have been adding a little bit more, since Connor left and Najee Harris in the running style, a little bit more outside zone, a little bit more blocking in space. For guys like that. So he'll plug in at left tackle. He's either going to be a Pro Bowl guy or he's going to be a bust. That's kind of what it is with him. But I think he'll fit in there. I see the fit. And the Steelers can mix it up with the different blocking schemes as well, which I could see. And they do trade up a little bit for him, but it's very risky. Very risky. You trade up and you take a risky pick, but leaning towards him working out there. So I give that a B, so maybe a little better than expected what I would have graded it. 15, people are probably got a different grade on this, I would imagine, on this one than me, but I like Will McDonald. Will McDonald was my number 4 edge rusher in the class. I was a big fan of him. Big-time productive pass rusher, and he was almost out of position at times, playing with 3-man rush Iowa State, playing over the tackle, playing, slightly inside the tackle, and then when he would stand up off the edge, he would really go to work because that's kind of what his natural position should be. But he was productive even out of position, showing that he's stronger than you think, lining up inside sometimes. We even saw him drop in coverage sometimes, so he can put his hand in dirt, he can stand up. He's got crazy length. It just feels like a Jets, Robert Saleh defender, a pass rusher here, kind of in that Leo type defense. He'll be the guy standing up on one side, and you can do different things with him. So it's a guy that I see rushing right outside John Franklin Myers, who kind of is a guy that can move around a bit. So I actually really, really like the fit. He might not, he was a productive beast, but maybe he won't be super productive right away just because I actually think he will, but it's possible just because there's just so many other guys in there. Franklin Myers is, he moves around a bit, but he does play outside sometimes. But mainly looking at Carl Lawson, Jermaine Johnson, Michael Clemens, guys like that. But I think McDonald is kind of what they're looking for. It's kind of that type of pass rusher that they actually do not have. So I would not be shocked if maybe he's their most productive one. It's either going to be like, he didn't play enough snaps to be productive, or he's their most productive one. Overall, I like Will McDonald. More than other people, and I love this fit. It does seem, a little early, maybe, and a little bit of a surprise. So maybe you couldn't quite put it in the A range. I love the fit so much that I'm almost talking myself into an A minus, but we're gonna keep that at that B plus. But it's getting close to that, while other people might say otherwise. Lesser of a grade. Emmanuel Forbes of the Commanders. Emmanuel Forbes is a guy that was just growing on me and growing on me and growing on me leading up to the draft. I'm a fan, rooting for him. Skinny guys, they could ball, big-time playmaker. I love that he's effective in man and zone, press and off. Like, usually those are your best corners that can just do it all. Pretty instinctive. That's another sign as well. So he's good, and I think he's going to be a good player for them. It does seem a little early, and they took him over Christian Gonzalez. So that's a tough part. You think you take him over Christian Gonzalez, who's that elite corner, and it's a little early. Got to be in this C plus range, but I like Forbes so much. It just, I like him. He's going to be good. It's tough taking him over Gonzalez, but I give it a B. I'm a Forbes fan, so it's kind of like the Gibbs. It's very similar to the Gibbs Lions situation there. They got a good player. I'm a fan. It may not be as much of a reach as other people might say. We'll give it a B. I told you guys the Commanders always do something surprising, and I predicted this to happen because I'm predicting them to do something surprising. So I did not think they were going to take him over Gonzalez, though. If Gonzalez on the board, I would have mocked that, but I didn't have him on the board. So, yeah, pretty crazy. And then the Patriots get an A+. They get an A+ for this. Christian Gonzalez, my number 5 overall player in the draft. Elite grade for me. Why? Because he's a complete corner. I mean, this guy showed moments of being just a shutdown, lockdown corner, and moments of being a playmaker, jumping a route, running a route for a receiver, taking the ball, and he's pretty good at returning it as well. He's an athletic freak. He's got good size, good length. You wish he had a little more build to him, but he's enough for me. Super instinctive in zone, but even better in man, can press. Well, yeah, one of those guys effective in every category. Patriots traded back somehow and still got him, got picks as well. You know he's going to be damn good in Bill Belichick's defense. They usually don't value corners this much. So for them to do that, you know the guy is damn good. You know, so it's a sure thing. This guy is going to be really good. It's plain and simple. So this is an A+ for me. Tremendous value. It's an A+ if they, you know, it was an A+ to me if where'd they pick 14? And an A+ there. They trade back, get picked, and they still get Gonzalez. It's the best value pick of day one. Very much impressive from the New England Patriots. It's a shocker last year. Everyone was expecting another one. Actually, it is a shocker, but in a fantastic way here. 18, yeah, Jack Campbell Lions. I sat here with grading. All the other ones kind of came natural. Like, all right, that one's that, and I sat here like almost trying to force myself to give it better because I'm a big Brad Holmes fan. You guys know that the last 2 years. This is the first time I'm in a disagreement with Brad Holmes, but boy, am I in a disagreement with them over there. I was not a Campbell guy, and some people do have him in the top 3 of their linebackers. Some people have him linebacker 1, you know, and people keep mentioning that to me, but the legit people have him, you know, not as low as me, but lower than 1. You know, the consensus has Sanders and Simpson and maybe even Henley over him, but that has nothing to really do with that. With my grade here, this is a reach even for those people that like Campbell. This is a big time reach, but I was not and I got to base this off of how I evaluate the players and where I have them graded based on what I watched. I was surprised by it, but I did not like the tape. I seen him running himself into blocks. I've seen him reacting super late, which would result in the blockers getting to him and not being able to get off. He will have some flashy plays here and there. He's pretty quick. The footwork's pretty good. You know, a lot of these linebackers are kind of, you know, slashers, you know, speedy, getting downhill, getting, you know, the angles, getting across field. That we don't see that from him. It doesn't mean he's not athletic, but you wish there was more there. You know, and I was about to bump it up. That would have been like, I don't want to say biased because I'm not a Lions fan, but I'm a big Brad Holmes fan. So I almost bumped it up because of that. But anybody else, I went out to give it a grade. But then I remember another thing. They just, you know, he's more of a Mike linebacker. They just paid Anzalone, you know, so what do they do there? Do they move him to Rodrigo's spot, who they like, the fan base likes? You know, and they're running C.J. Gardner-Johnson in the slot like at all times. So they're running 2 linebackers a lot. So Campbell, apparently they're high on, but I mean, where's he going to find that playing time? And if he does, it's probably over Anzalone, which you just paid that guy. And I was surprised by that as well. But they just paid that guy to sit on the bench or to only be used in blitzing situations. But that means he's on the field and passing downs. And Campbell, I think the one thing I did like about him is his coverage. Now, I didn't love it, but his coverage. So then is he off the field? I'm just confused about it all the way around. So I was not a fan of his tape. Even if you like Campbell, this was a reach. There'll probably be some people trying to talk themselves into it. I mean, if Lions fans were giving me Fs in my mocks for giving them players that would have been steals around here, big-time, well-known players. So they would have gave me an F for mocking this. So I think we all have to be in agreement. Even if I think the people that like Campbell kind of thought mid-second round, maybe early, and this is 18th pick. So I think even those people got to be around this range or maybe D's. So that's tough. But Brad Holmes has been great. Let's see if was this more of a Brad Holmes pick though? Was this more of a Dan Campbell pick? You know, let's see if it turns out here. You know, but maybe surprisingly, I did like the Gibbs one, and we'll see what the lines do the rest of the draft is. I mean, the rest of the draft makes your money here in terms of grades, but I ranked Brad Holmes 2 drafts right after the draft. Number 1 2 years ago, number 2 last year. I think we were pretty accurate about that. Surprised by this start for the Detroit Lions, but it is a weird draft class. Number 19, KALIJAH KANCEY, which growing on me a little bit. I wasn't super, super high on KANCEY like everyone else. I am super high on his production and his explosiveness, the flashiness, the big-time plays. But how does it translate to the NFL? You do worry about the length. He does rely on his first step, like winning right off the bat. Because when he didn't win right off the bat with his quickness and explosiveness, the offensive lineman got a hold of him, and it was tough for him then getting off the block. So it's like boomer. Every play is kind of boom or bust with him. And then in the running game, like he made some flash plays in the running game, but once again, struggled to shed blocks sometimes. So great player though overall, flashy, super athletic. But I, kind of wondered how much will a team use him? Will they use him on early downs? Will he only be in on obvious passing downs? Will he be able to shed NFL guards because he couldn't really shed college guards? But his first step was nasty, making people miss, making guards miss. So he wasn't quite as high as 19 on my board. So this probably was in the range of C, but I do like what the Bucs do with their defensive line. I think he can fit in. I think Vita Vea could help create for him, and maybe he can help create for Vita Vea. They do have Greg Gaines in there as well. They do have Logan Hall, but a good mixture of guys. But then I do question how much with those other guys, how much is going to be used on the field? 19th overall pick, you better be using him a ton. But they wanted more pass rush for the D line, and they get that here. So I gave it a B-. It's kind of the C+, B- range for me. 20th pick, Jack Smith-Njigba. This was like A+. I gave it an A+. It was, it didn't really have the A+ feel of the Christian Gonzalez or maybe even the CJ Stroud, the Ohio State guy. So it was tough. I was like back and forth A+, but overall, it's my number 1 receiver in the class, my number 13 overall player in the draft, and they get the first receiver off the board at pick 20. So that is kind of pushing towards that A+. But I do love the fit as well because the Seahawks have a pure outside receiver in DK Metcalf, and they got a guy like Lockett who's mainly outside, but get some snaps on the inside, and they really don't have that true slot, but now they do. I mean, it's a true slot that has phenomenal footwork. He gets separation. He's got big playability. We saw that. But most importantly, I've seen him kind of read defenses on the fly, finding the soft spots in coverages and zone coverages. So I love that he's smart. And now Geno Smith has a ridiculous trio. So this team should be productive through the air. And then could Geno be even better after that contract too? Because he's still going, because he's actually still getting better at his age, and because the receivers that he has. So some playmakers over there. They didn't reach for need or anything like that. They're like, okay, receivers aren't the biggest need, but this guy's still here, number 1 receiver in the class. Let's take him because one of these teams behind us would have taken him for sure. So A+ for the Seahawks at pick 20. 21. Yeah, I wasn't a huge Quentin Johnston guy. He was growing on me a little bit going into the, at the end of the draft, but he's a boomer bust guy to me. I mean, he's big, he's super athletic. His best is after the catch for a big guy. That's pretty impressive. It kind of sounds like N'Keal Harry a little bit, who actually liked, so that's the tough part. But don't want to compare him to other players, but the bad things where he was stuck on one side of the field like all those TCU receivers in the past, and they only ran a couple of routes like all those TCU receivers in the past. So it's going to be tough to go in the NFL. You're going to have to move around a bit. You're going to have to run more routes. He's going to have to do better getting separation. He dropped a ton of balls. He doesn't high point. For a big guy, he doesn't go up and high point the ball. A lot of body catches, which result in the drop. So the negatives are bad. The positives are wow. Like, okay, there's not too many guys like him. So he does have to fix a few things there a little bit. I cannot believe the Chargers didn't go Jordan Addison. Not just because he was my best receiver on the board at this point, my number 2 overall, but because it just seems like a tremendous fit with his ability to play outside and inside equally as effective. The Chargers don't have that outside separator, and they could use that inside guy for the future with Keenan Allen. How long has he got left? And they have a former receiver coach of Addison's in the building as well. Just shocked that they didn't go Jordan Addison. So Johnson, I mean, chances are he's going to be pretty decent, and they might get that boom more of that boom out of him than that bust out of him, because he goes to a high-powered passing attack with one of the best quarterbacks in football, elite quarterback Justin Herbert. So that's a pretty good sign. It's just, but at the same time, it's like sometimes I love Mike Williams, but sometimes he disappears a little bit. So what's going to happen when a guy like Johnston here, is he going to have to battle because Josh Palmer could battle him for some snaps there too. So I give it a C plus because I think he'll end up eventually being productive and he could be a flashy guy, because he's learning from Allen and Mike Williams, but mainly because he got Justin Herbert throwing to him. So I didn't completely give it a bad grade, but it's a tough one. It's kind of a tough one at the same time, So boomer bust guy there at 21. The run on receivers here, Zay Flowers goes 22. I still did have receivers that I liked a little more on the board here available, but I do like the fit overall. Pairing him with OBJ makes some sense. A guy that can play in the slot, can play outside. It's a guy you kind of can scheme up or just get the ball to underneath. It kind of fits with that Raven-style offense. Lamar Jackson. They'll be fast. They'll be creative. They'll be electrifying when their playmakers have the ball in their hands. So that'll be a lot of fun. So I do like the fit. I do like the excitement part of it. There were better receivers. And the Ravens do keep getting these guys that are like, like it's good they can play inside and outside, but then there are guys that are like, are they going to be better inside or are they going to be better outside? Which one were they better at, at the next level? And the Ravens actually thought Bateman would be better inside, and they've kind of been forcing him outside, and he's good, just had some the durability issues, I suppose. So it's going to be fun to watch. Flowers, if he plays outside, it needs to do a better, he could struggle against NFL press right away because I kind of saw that against the better competition. So I liked him better inside because of that. And he could catch the ball a little more consistently, have a flashy catch, but then drop an easier one. But he had really bad quarterback play at the same time. I give it a B. I like the fit. I do think there are a little bit better receivers here. And that'd be Jordan Addison, who is my number 2 receiver in the class. To the Vikings here at 23. This is kind of borderline A+, because this is kind of like close to like a dream scenario for the Vikings. Kind of perfect Adam Thielen replacement. Him with Justin Jefferson, ridiculous. Some thought that he shouldn't be here, but we did think it was kind of realistic, so I do give it an A. It's not like insane value or anything like that. But I do absolutely love the fit. They had the best receiver available at this time, number 2. And I think the Vikings would have had Addison. I think I talked about that before. Before the draft, that Addison would be their number 1 just because, the motion type guy, ability to play outside in the slot, a little bit more than Jack Smith the Jigbas. So it's a perfect fit here for the Vikings. So that worked out pretty well for them. Gave them an A, and it's close to being an A+. Deonte Banks, I hate trading up one spot. I hate it. Talked about with the Eagles, but I still give they end up being really good picks, so that's what's most important. So I gave the Giants an A here. Deonte Banks, I loved his press man ability. I see some upside in zone, but he goes to a press man team with Don Martindale's defense. Him here, Adoree Jackson, Deonte Banks should be pretty fun. They definitely needed a corner. Adoree Jackson got an expiring deal as well. So tremendous fit, flashy player. He was really only not even a full 1 season of him being this good, though. But, man, that tape was the tape of what we saw was way better than 24th overall pick. It was just, like an 8-game sample size there. But some flashy ability there. Really good fit there for the Martindale and the Giants here with that defense and Deonte Banks. 25. This is the ultimate. I wake up in the morning. It's growing on me. It's the ultimate that, for sure. And it happens every year. I liked Mayer better than Kincaid. This was more of the range for me for Kincaid. And they trade up a couple spots. I don't really love that, for the Bills. I thought they needed more picks. But, so at first, and it's like they get a tight end. They have Dawson Knox. They paid him a lot of money. How much they're going to use both those guys. That's tough. I mean, they could use both at the same time because they're different types of tight ends. But how much are they actually going to use both? Who are they taking off the field more? Probably Kincaid. So those thoughts are like, but this is more of a fit than Mayer, first off, but he's going to be super productive with Josh Allen in this high-powered offense. I mean, they've been searching for a slot guy. Some of those top slot receivers were off the board, obviously, and you get a mismatch slot guy. They're trying to match it what Travis Kelce brings to the Chiefs. He's not going to be Travis Kelce. Kelsey's just better, but better in line as well. But they're trying to match that a little bit, and I like that. They got a mismatch big body slot guy here that could play in line if you need him to, and then him on the field at the same time at Diggs, Gabe Davis, and Dawson Knox with elite player like Josh Allen throwing to him. I'm loving that idea. He's going to be very, very productive. Very productive. It's going to create mismatches. again, you trade up a little bit. Tight end, not super sexy. And again, the downside is you took a guy in the first round that, when you already have a tight end, how much you're going to use both. When they use both, it's going to look pretty damn cool. But this is one that really is growing on me. Like, he's going to be a factor. He's going to be productive. I give the Bills a B+. It is tough because they probably did have to go over the Cowboys to get him. I don't love trading up, but they probably did have to go. I think the Cowboys would have taken him. I'm starting to think that. The Cowboys, I didn't really love their pick. The good news for Cowboys fans, well, usually I'm pretty accurate in my evaluations and my grades, but the good news for the Cowboys fans, I didn't like Tyler Smith pick that much last year, and I was wrong on that because that guy's a stud, and he can dominate that tackle and guard for the future. But before that, years before that, I gave Micah Parsons an A+. I gave CeeDee Lamb an A+. I mean, those were just obvious. They were killing the drafts then, absolutely killing it. So I have been high on the Cowboys and inaccurate while doing it. But, Mazi Smith's a good player. I mean, of course the Cowboys get better on the inside here. They get better. It's not like they get worse or anything like that. They get better here. And Dan Quinn's a phenomenal defensive coach. And the Cowboys' run defense will be better because of this. To me, it take a guy like Mazi Smith who plays on the interior a lot. Won't play any further outside of over the guard. We'll see him play inside the guard or over the nose. So to take a guy like that in the first round, like, I need to see a little bit more. I need to see more backfield production for him. He doesn't really have that. Like, he's a good run stopper, but he kind of lets the ball come to him, which still is a very minimal gain. But I wish there was a little bit more. And he does have upside. He used to be freaky athlete, but freaky athlete. But he kind of put on more size, and he doesn't seem as athletic since. So that was kind of his super upside card. But he does collapse some pockets, so there's that. I thought he was a second-round guy and a middle of the second-round guy, just because, the team down there was going to get a good player, is going to help them, but change them completely as a flashy player. No, so tough taking him here at 26. I think they were going to take Dalton Kincaid. The next best player on their board was Mazi Smith, obviously. Just my opinion there. And he'll help them. They'll stop the run because of that, but it's just based on my board. And then if you do reach for a guy, he better be pretty flashy. To me, he didn't have that, but so I put that at a C. 27th pick was the Jaguars trading back two times, gaining more picks. Lack of activity in free agency. Being able to add more picks makes some sense. And they take Anton Harrison, who's the tackle from Oklahoma. I gave this a B. I mean, it's not the most appealing pick. You probably would have felt a little more comfortable with him early second round pick. We're kind of getting close to there. But they do trade back and get some more picks on top of it. They did need a tackle with Juwan Taylor gone, and with Cam Robinson's suspension apparently coming. The tough part is when everyone's out healthy, not suspended on the field, who is their best tackle duo? You could argue Harrison in that mix, but it could be Little and Cam Robinson. So if that is the case at any point during the season or in the future, because those guys are young as well, then your first round pick is a backup. That's a possibility. The good news is he'll start right off the bat, probably because the Robinson suspension, and he has the injury concern perhaps because last year and Walker Little always had durability concerns coming out of Stanford, so that's a positive as well. But it is a risky pick because the Oklahoma had some weird RPO scheme with their blocking scheme. Doesn't really translate to the NFL. I think Doug Peterson and company, he'll throw some RPO in there too, but still a little bit different. But they're really good at working with these guys, and he has the traits. He has the power, athleticism, length, all of that. So I'll give it a B here. I know the dream pick for the Jags fans was Brian Branch. Somehow he's still on the board, available on the board there. 28, A+ pick here. I was a big Myles Murphy guy. And I'm even more of a Myles Murphy guy because he goes to the big-time Cincinnati Bengals, who just seems to continue to make their defensive players better, especially on the defensive line. They get better and better. Super well coached over there, very well coached, getting the most out of their players. So they get a player that was number 12 on my board, my number 2 edge rusher. The guy's got a rare combination of power and athleticism. Love that. He knows how to use his power. He knows how to use his length. He can win with both of them. The get-off, the explosive get-off is the first thing I look for with edge rushers. He's got it. One of the best in the class. He stops running a high level right away. He just needs some pass rush moves, which is not uncommon for guys to need coming in from college to the NFL, for good ones. You rather coach up some moves than explosive get-off, because that doesn't really change at this point, or especially length, power, speed, because you can't coach those things. So you want to coach those moves up. And if there's a team that can do it, there's a defense that can do it, it's the Bengals. You know, what they've done with Hendrickson and Hubbard. To me, this is another one of those guys. This is another Trey Hendrickson, but that is way more athletic. Way more athletic. And you can use all three at the same time. You can use Hendrickson and Murphy off the edge because Hubbard can slide in a little bit because of his strength and his run-stopping ability. No doubt in my mind Murphy's going to work out. This is an ultimate upside guy down here at pick 28. This is one of the best single picks of day one of the NFL draft, of the draft so far. So an A+. I'm pumped about the Bengals. I was kind of leaning my Super Bowl pick. You know, does this make them even more of a Super Bowl contender? You know, maybe not a whole bunch, but I think he's going to be a beast. So the great gets greater, you know. 29, two Clemson guys back-to-back. Brian Brzee to the Saints. Yeah, it's an interesting one because Brian Brzee is a good football player. He's a good football player, and he actually has upside too because he was kind of coming in as more of an edge guy, but they kind of knew they're going to move him inside. So he's almost still learning the position, and you can move him around a little bit. So he's a good football player if he's on the field. You know, so overall, that's good for the Saints. You know, the downside is the durability concerns, multiple injuries, and I'm not worried about the kidney infection. That's not really a long-term issue for me. But a couple different injuries in the past. Just been very unfortunate with that. And on top of that, so the Saints kind of have guys that have durability issues. Like that's kind of been the Saints' issue on why they haven't lived up to expectations or what we're used to them being the last couple of years because of injuries. You know, it's not because of talent at all. You know, so it is a little tough adding another guy that has some durability issues or concerns going forward into that mix. They did add a couple interior defensive linemen. So I thought they would go more so edge, but they didn't want to reach for a guy. But they did lose Onyemata. You know, they did add a couple defensive linemen, but they didn't really add any great one here. Brzzee's going to start for them. Again, if he's on the field, he's going to be good. He's going to look a little bit better than the B range. But there is some risk in that with the durability. But I give that one a B still. 30, Nolan Smith to the Eagles. I gave that a B+. This was more of the range for me for Nolan Smith. You know, some people were different, but this was more of the range that he should go. So it's a good pick here, B+. You know, Eagles are really good at getting the most out of their defensive linemen. I know Gannon's gone, so that's tough, but you know, he's a flashy guy because of his speed, athleticism, ability to drop back in coverage, ability to stop the run. The downside of him was, you know, being thin and having the injury doesn't help. So maybe there is some, I wouldn't say big durability concern, but some durability concern. And the lack of strength kind of does show in the passing game. He kind of relies on his get off, you know, and his speed, and sometimes doesn't win with that even. You know, because he could get caught off balance. If tackles get their hands on him, it's pretty tough. He does have some pretty good bend on the outside. You know, but if he can pack on some more bulk and get stronger, you know, he's strong enough in the run game. That's why it's weird, you know, very weird. You know, and people are saying he could be like another Hassan Reddick. You know, Reddick worked so well in Gannon's defense. How will it be? You know, and he's such a good football player, but without Gannon, but then having kind of two of them there would be interesting. But you get a good football player overall that can do different things. You got quite a few Georgia guys that play pretty well together. Nolan Smith still hasn't hit his expectations because he was a top recruit, but could potentially hit that in the NFL. I give that one a B+, and I think that's somewhere people maybe would give that one an A+ because they were super high on Nolan Smith. It's just kind of the range I had Nolan Smith based on my evaluation there. And then 31, Felix Anudike-Uzomah. I had a second-round grade on him. This is the 31st pick, so we're almost in the second round, so it's not the end of the world. It might have been like around a C+ range, but I do really like the fit. I like him as like a Frank Clark type guy. Just feels like a Chiefs type guy, 4-3 end, pretty good get off, explosive. You know, just feels like a Frank Clark, good solid Frank Clark replacement. My thing that I didn't, maybe why he was a second round guy that I did not like about him, that Uzomah was not really showing up against the top tier competition or the better tackles. Like he would dominate, but it would have been against, you know, Texas Techs, you know, teams like that. You know, when he played Anton Harrison, I thought Harrison won that battle. You know, him and Wanya Morris over there. When he played Alabama, he got shut down. When he played the better teams, he disappeared for me. So that's tough. The Chiefs are really good at developing. They're really good at drafting. You know, him with Karlaftis over there, that could work out. It's a good fit. I don't know if I'm expecting like super flashy right away. Definitely not right away. But because of the fit and just knowing the Chiefs, You know, maybe it would have originally been a C+ pick, but it kind of bumps up to a B-. So those are my grades for day one based on my evaluations, based on value of picks, based on fits as well. We have a recent video talking about winners, losers, questionable picks, interesting picks, value, best fits, all those kinds of things. Check out that video. We'll have a day 2 mock draft still coming as well, and a lot more content, live analysis on every pick for day 2 and 3 on our Twitter. Make sure you follow that. But that is going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.